Welcome everyone to UC San Diego Health Science International for today's webinar on mastering evidence-based medicine through clinical research. We're very happy to have you join us. I'm going to just ask for a few housekeeping things before we get started. If you could please mute your microphone on whatever device you're using to participate, as well as your camera. That's helpful to us. If you have questions during the course of the webinar, please feel free to type them into the group chat and we'll answer all the questions at the end. So without further ado then, we'll get started. I'd like to introduce our two participants today. We have Assistant Vice Chancellor Mounir Soliman. Dr. Soliman is the Vice Chancellor for Health Science International, as well as a Professor of Psychiatry here at UC San Diego. And also Dr. Patrick Delaney, who's a Professor of Neuroscience and the Education Advisor for UC San Diego Health Science International. They're going to talk to you a little about ways to enhance your evidence-based medical skills through clinical research opportunities. Dr. Soliman?
Well, thank you everyone for making it a time to attend this. I want to give you a few introductions first before we move forward with the webinar. Is related to UC San Diego and what's all about UC San Diego. So University of California, San Diego is part of the overall University of California. We've been in business probably for the last more than 60 years. What distinguishes us is mainly the focus in innovation and research as well. In the last few years, we have put together multiple programs to help and assist many scholars from all over the world who have an interest to pursue opportunities here in the United States. We have a gamut of programs that covers a lot of areas, including the pre-residency programs and then after residency program. What we're going to be talking to you about today is related to the clinical research opportunities for people who had some sort of experience after medical schools, or they are thinking to pursue graduate medical education or even fellowship in the United States. At UC San Diego, we have put together customized programs that takes care of a lot of objectives, mainly giving you the opportunity to have hands-on experience for teaching experience and learning. The other thing is improving your skills practically and help you out professionally for developing leadership and research skills as well. So these programs, especially the clinical research fellowship, is really focusing on evidence-based medicine, taking all of the discoveries that we know, and we are in the process for completing into the bedside. What's important about that is giving you opportunity to the latest and advanced knowledge in terms of research and the clinical practice. So for many years, we have attracted many scholars from all over the world. They come here for a long period of time. It can be a year, it can be 2 years. Before I leave and hand this one to Dr. Delaney, who is basically directing all of the program here at Health Science International for education and training, I want to share with you that you have to really well prepared to get into the programs, because the programs here are very tough and they require a lot of work, a lot of dedications, and also the selection process is a little bit stiff because we want to make sure that we're offering a program for someone who can use it. And with that said, there are process, and Maureen can talk about this later on, that once we give you a tentative acceptance to the program, your file goes to the department, say Department of Surgery, Medicine, Emergency. They evaluate you again, they interview you, and then they decide if there is a good match. And if there is a good match, this is when my office will step in and provide you with all the support and all of the required ingredients actually to help you out to be successful in the program. So I will stop here and I will be available to answer questions later on, but I will hand it to Dr. Delaney, who can share his experience and expertise.
Thank you so much, and welcome. Where one ultimately goes in a career really depends on your personal goals. It's quite an accomplishment to finish medical school. It's quite an accomplishment to finish internship or residency in one's home country. The real question is that enough for me as an individual? For many of us, we want to be the best possible physician or physician scientist we can be, and medical school is good preparation. But how comfortable do I feel with interpreting, a clinical study? How comfortable am I with how a clinical trial is put together? Those are important things when trying to translate that into treating your patients. And so I've put together a list here of the most common desired skills of the physicians who enter our programs. Many already have some degree of specialty training in psychiatry, neurology, in their given specialty, but they want to learn as it is at the feet of the master, at the direct bedside with a physician scientist at a leading institution. They'll also want to, over time, develop a network of connections in that specialty, so that they can use that for their own patients, for their own education over their career. They almost invariably want exposure to the kind of clinical research that's conducted here at UCSD, and they mostly want those skills because at some point they want to step forward as a leader in academic medicine, be that in business or in the business aspects of medicine or in the academic ones. So having said that, if one has made that choice, the United States is a good place to pursue those goals. As you can see from the slide, 6 of the top 10 medical schools, or 10 of the top 20, and that's really built on a strong foundation of research, both across the country and particularly here at UCSD. As you can see, 8 of the top 10 research universities, 7 of the top biological science universities, life sciences, pharmaceuticals, all of those things go into making the elite medical schools, and that's really what the U.S. has to offer. Dr. Soliman and I have both benefited from being at one of the most elite of universities in the U.S. Here in San Diego, and so here's a partial list of the university's accomplishments. To me, the big one is number 5 in influence in the world for research universities. That is staggering when one thinks about the quality of universities around the world. And as you can see, 21st best medical school and those other accomplishments below. The 20 Nobel laureates certainly doesn't hurt either. And so having said that, if one chooses to come to the United States and to an institution like this, is there more to the story? And absolutely. And just to finish out the story about UCSD, so just in last year alone, the School of Medicine brought in almost $700 million in research funding alone. And that should give you a sense of the strength of those institutions and those faculty. Most of that money is brought in by individual faculty members in their specialty areas of interest. And those are the same physicians that mentor individual physicians, both from the U.S. and from countries around the world. Say close to 1,500 faculty, clinical faculty members, 18 departments, 2,300 students. It is a large university. In terms of clinical training, almost 140 postgraduate training programs, and actually well over that if you include the pharmacy programs. So as I said, we are very fortunate to have almost every tool available for training physicians and training researchers. In terms of specific clinical research training, we must have skipped a slide in there. In terms of the research training and acquiring the skill set we talked about, one can go through another residency, another internship here in the US. Alternatively, one can directly acquire those skills that one desires to be successful in terms of that research exposure, the subspecialty clinical exposure. And that's what the Clinical Research Fellowship is here at UCSD. It's a mentored clinical and research exposure in the specific subspecialty that allows the scholars to network in that department. There is an unbelievable number of specialty conferences, grand rounds, resident didactics in each individual department. It's hard to keep track of how many there are. In addition, though, the program isn't merely to gain exposure to those things. We want each person that goes through the program to eventually become an ambassador for UCSD when they return to their home institution or their home country. They'll be the one that trained at the University of California, and others will look to them for knowledge about the system, for knowledge about how the business side of medicine works, how the medical education side works. And so into this course, we built very selective additional programs in each of those major areas. As you can see, global health leadership, a medical education primer, a very short, intensive master's in mini MBA that's tailored on the master's programs, and a translational science component also. It takes a amount of time to get through that, typically 12 to 18 months. But it does leave each scholar with that skill set that they are seeking. And so this sort of comes back to what each individual really sees themselves doing down the line. If it's this research and education experience, fantastic. If it is going through graduate medical education in the U.S. system, that is also something that we help scholars around the world with. In which case you might want to look at our website or one of the other webinars that we offer, which cover those also. Back to you, Maureen. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Delaney, for that presentation. Fantastic. Dr. Soliman, did you want to add anything to that?
I think the one thing I want to add that from our experience, the people who went through our program or programs here, but the one specifically for the clinical research and return it back to their country, they are now playing a pivotal role either in the transformation of the healthcare system in their country, or by taking on a leadership position. We have people who went back to be leaders in the Ministry of Education or Ministry of Health, or even become program directors in their hospital. So the impact that we see after the finish here is really bringing tremendous opportunities to their country and helping transformation of the system, either in the specific area or on a broader range in terms of healthcare delivery. That's number one. Number two, that the scholars who have completed our clinical research program and they went back to their country, they continue to build the relationship with UC San Diego and they expand on innovative ideas to put something new in their country. And we continue to be supportive. We continue to provide them with what it takes to make them successful, especially in this kind of adventure that they take when they go back. One other important thing that we want to share with you, that the people who finish this kind of program, they became very uniquely trained in a specific area, in something that probably does not exist in the country. And they take this knowledge and they don't stop there, but they expand on putting maybe similar or even enhanced programs. And this is one of the elements that we take a look at as maybe a way to measure success. I want to emphasize the importance for this kind of experience. This is really a hands-on experience for educational purpose, because you cannot deal directly with patients in the United States unless you have a license. But also I want to share with you guys that we have certain things that we can do with the California Medical Board, where we can get license exemption, where you can have even clinical practice within the institution, but it depends on your years of experience, your residency, when did you finish, what kind of training that you had, and also what you'd like to accomplish. But there are many opportunities that it range from just seeing things and observing to having like direct hands-on for educational purpose, to even direct hands-on for clinical experience based on the regulation with the California Medical. We have trained a lot of folks in at this institution: psychiatry, dermatology, pulmonary critical care, ortho. A lot of folks continues to come, and we want to make sure that you are aware of this kind of programs. And if you feel it is something that you need to pursue, my office probably would be more than happy to answer question and to go from there. So with that said, probably we should listen to some questions.
Yes, please. If you have questions at this time, feel free to type them into the group chat. I see that we have a question about how the training is standardized or customized. So for this program, each individual receives a custom training plan based on their area of interest. Once they've been fully selected into the program, we work directly with the faculty members in their area to outline the curriculum based on their learning objectives, the length of time that they're allowed to pursue the training, and what their ultimate, obviously, goals are. So we work with each individual to define what their program looks like. Great.
I think I would add to that the mentor choice. We have the advantage of having been here at UCSD for a very long time, and the mentor choice is important in terms of the nature of the research here at UCSD. That's entirely from bench work, stem cell, petri dish research, directly to genomic or injecting the patient at the bedside. It runs the entire gamut, and it's important that we guide that selection of the mentor because those opportunities are so varied. The faculty will almost invariably have many different research projects already underway, and I think for some applicants to these programs, they're worried that I'm not sure what the precise nature of the research I should be doing is. And that's okay, because we will, and the faculty member will. It's a very short period of time. I know that 12 or 18 months sounds like a long time, but at the pace that things happen here, that is the blink of an eye. And so it's usually best to leap into research that's already underway with a faculty member, and then to think about individual aspects of it.
Thank you. We have a question from someone who's currently completing a master's degree, and could they enroll following participation in a master's? So the answer is, of course, yes. Having a master's degree could actually be quite helpful. Again, we have a very stringent application process for the program, which is on our website. It involves sending in several pieces of documentation, a personal statement, going through an interview process, but we actually suggest that people plan at least 6 months prior to wanting to begin a program to start the planning process for this particular program. Since it's customized to each person, we can do it more quickly, but typically, you know, from the time you apply to the time we get you on the ground here and to have you plan for being away for that length of time, I'd say about 6 months or so. The fellowship itself is typically from 12 to 24 months, so 1 to 2 years. There's occasion where we might be able to do 6 months, but we definitely recommend a year for this. And one other thing I wanted to mention, while there's not a degree program embedded in this fellowship, it is possible for us to work with certain master degree programs here at the university to have you co-matriculate, for example, in a master's in clinical and translational research or a master's in healthcare leadership. But that, again, is the process changes just slightly. So in the process of getting to know you, we would determine whether that might be a good option for you, and if so, how we would proceed accordingly. Fantastic. Are there any last questions today? I'd like to encourage you, and most of you may have already emailed to the hsinternational@ucsd.edu email address regarding this webinar. But if you have any follow-up questions or would like some additional information, please feel free to reach out to us at any time. We'll be sending out a small evaluation tool for this webinar, and also seeking your input on topics that would be interesting to you in the future. We really welcome your feedback and your comments. So thank you for taking the time out of your day to join us for the webinar. Thank you, Dr. Delaney. Thank you, Dr. Soliman.
Thank you.